Welcome to Jump Shots from the Goal Line, the podcast where we talk about sports and then are blatantly wrong a week later. I am your host, Jonathan Dugan, joined by my co-host, Mr. John Henningsen. John, we are wrong about everything, are we not?
But we're not afraid to be wrong, Dugan. And that's
No,
what
we throw
separates us
ourselves
from
out there.
those. Yeah. That's what separates us. I will explain this, though. I mean, I say this to people that people on the streets, Dugan, that we're talking to. I'll be like, come on, podcast guy. And I'm like, look, man, I hope you guys know. And I think we've made it pretty clear. But I want to make it clear again. We know we're idiots. We're just here talking, and we're the only ones recording it. So you know what? We're out here. And we're going to be wrong, and we know we can be wrong. And the Miami Heat, goddamn, do they make me wrong?
Yeah, let me put it this way. If we were right about everything, we would be in the same seat as like Shams or Waj or Windhorst or Adam Schefter.
But these guys get that stuff wrong too. All these guys have to. If you have to play the guessing game that is sports, you're going to be wrong. But you're right; those guys are reporting, and that's they're in the business of getting information.
We're just like you guys out there, listeners. We are just out here spitting hot takes, hoping that we hit on some of them. My wheelhouse is the NFL draft. Henny's is like anything to do with golf. I think we're both okay at basketball, but goddamn, have we been so wrong lately that I'm really starting to wonder if I even really like basketball, So, man, outside of being wrong, I know we both hit the links this weekend, not together because we're not that good of friends. Apparently, we just never get our schedules together.
Friend adjacent.
Yeah, exactly. One of these days, though,
catty corner from friendship.
One of these days, we're gonna link up again on the course. Now that you know that my wife will actually let me go out, because that was a shock to me too. So it's okay. Let's start with your scorecard, because I know yours was better than mine. You shot pretty well this weekend, right?
Yeah, I didn't think when I told you what happened that I was going to be talking about it here. So I'll just simply say that I played solid. I gave it a close run, and I know no matter what. The reason I don't really want to talk about it is that either I talk about it and you're the guy who shoots 106, and you're like, dude, I hate this guy. Or you're better than me, or you even think you're better than me, and I'm just going to hear chirp, chirp, that, blah. Like you would know, we've been in golf Twitter, Dugan. Why do you want to expose ourselves to that?
First of all, you know me, because I am Mr. 106 on a good day. I will never be the one that's like, man, screw this guy. He's so much better than me. I'm going to celebrate your achievements all day long, brother, because we've been on the links together as much as I like to sit here and shit talk both of us. I've seen you shoot in the 90s, and I've seen you shoot in the 80s. This weekend, you got close to shooting in the 70s, though, so I want to hear about it.
I gave it a scare. I'm down to give the 70s a scare, and every now and then I'll dip in there. So, but I'll just say, the only reason it was worth sharing, or the reason I brought it up was, classic, double finish, just to make sure that I don't, that's, if you really want to know what I'm about out there, it's about crippling defeat when it really matters, like most golfers. So hopefully it comes off more as relatable than anything else. Nothing like playing your ass off all day, but then it's what inevitably happens. Someone starts telling you what your score is. Man, I'm excited to see your card. I think you're really close. And I'm doing everything not to think about what I'm scoring. Literally trying to play one shot at a time. And as soon as you're hyper aware, the ghosts, the demons.
Here's the problem with golf.
The bad things.
Here's the problem with golf. And I don't know how your round went, but I know how our rounds normally go together. Is you play real strong on the front nine. Then the back nine, you might start out pretty well. But if you're golfing with us, the back nine's when those adult beverages start hitting a little hard. I don't know how hard you hit the beers on the course. I know I hit them
not
pretty
even
decent. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had rounds like that. This is not the case. Not at all. It's hot now. We're just drinking water. Honestly, no, it's just literally bad golf.
Yeah.
Not one.
Try to give you an out, buddy.
No, not even a sip, dude. Literally, the only demons out there were my own. I just literally crumpling it. No, we play in the middle of the day. It's hot. I mean, Don't get me wrong. Not that you can't have, of course you can, blah, blah, blah. But no, I wish I had an excuse, Dugan. I really do.
Now, what were these holes like, man? Were these par fours? Were these par threes that got you?
No, this
Or
is like a par three and a par four back to back. Like, didn't even ever lose my ball. Hit him into like unplayable scenarios, though. Then I'm like, drop it. It's just a disaster. Just
oh
mistake after
man.
mistake. Like, can't make a putt. Like it all just piles on.
See, I what I'm gathering from this is like at the start of the show, you try to put it on that you didn't want to make anybody mad, like the guys that shoot in the hundreds or the guys that think they're better than you. But I think realistically, why you didn't want to talk this through is because you didn't want to talk about it because it's still very painful for
It's always painful, Dugan. It's
you.
always painful.
What was hilarious too, listeners, is I had played earlier that day and I had shot Henny a text saying golf is so frustrating, and that's all I put. And lo and behold, golf is actually hard. It's very frustrating, and Henny had some demons to battle through. And that text, I think it hit harder than it usually does.
That's exactly right. It's basically like golf is frustrating, and I'm like, let me tell you about frustrating, buddy. Let me tell you about it. And then I know for you, right? I mean, you're granted, like we talked about, like still a little newer to the game, or just
Yeah.
like don't have as many reps, however you want to frame it.
Hmm.
And but you're still banging away out there. Went well.
Define well.
Well, you said you were frustrated, but I assume that
Yeah.
means there was moments that led to. I'm not sure. Like you
I'm
tell
getting
me.
better. I'm getting better. The thing that was cool was what's always cool with me. Obviously, being a large person myself, my favorite part of the golf game still is the driver. I don't struggle too much with the driver like some people do. In fact, it's my favorite thing to swing out there. And I was hammering the ball. My buddy John Sanchez, that was with me, was in utter awe. And I'm not saying that to like brag, but it was just like you and I talked about. It's one of those things that like you get out there, and that's kind of what gets you the golf bug is like your partner just kind of going, "Oh my god," when you hit a shot. And like I was hitting the ball, it had to be like 340, 350, and it's not exaggeration because there were a couple holes where they were like par fours, probably like 330, to the pin, and I was over hitting the freaking green. But that's what was frustrating for me. It's never that frustrating for me with my iron shots because I just know going into them that they're going to be frustrating. What was frustrating for me was I was hitting it off the tee with the driver really good, like very straight, and I couldn't find my ball because I was hitting it too far. And by the time that we get down there, you just don't know where it went anymore because your buddy's already hit a couple other shots and you can't find it. And that was frustrating for me. I lost probably like 4 or 5 balls simply because we couldn't find them. And it wasn't because I hit them OB. It was just because it was like either hugging the left or right side of the course a little too much, and we just couldn't find it. And I was just like, dude, I'm out here getting penalized because I hit the ball too far.
I just love.
That was
I also enjoy like because it's right. And I'm just telling you what other people are hearing right now. They're going. It wasn't like they were out of bounds. We just like couldn't find them.
yeah, and that's
Like
what it was, dude. Like
definitely
I'm
not like
telling you,
unfindable or out of bounds. Just like we just couldn't find them.
I'm telling you right now, it wasn't one of those because you've been out there with me where I'm gonna hook it or I'm gonna, like slice it one way or another, and you're never gonna find those ones. These were straight as an arrow, bro. And I just like playing desert golf, it found a corner of the world that I couldn't see and I couldn't find the ball anymore because it just hugged that left or right side a
It's
little too much.
it's Dugan. It's the meanest game in the world.
It really is, and I
It's just
love
it
it
just
though.
is. It's just the meanest game in the world. Like it's just there's so much joy in it because of all the pain that comes with it, but it is just
Yeah.
the meanest damn game in the world. And played shots all weekend, whether it's never even the person that deserve like someone hits a great shot, you know what I mean? Someone
Yeah.
slops it around. The result never matches, it does like
No.
time in and time
Yeah.
out, but like there's so many instances where you're looking at each other and you're like, yeah, no, I know I part that actually. I know it looked really bad, but I did. I sorry about your seven. You hit so many good shots that never came home. It's just
Yeah. It was cool though because so we played at um, Del Lago, and it was pretty backed up. The ranger had to come up several times and be like apologizing profusely, like, "Guys, I'm so sorry. Like, we got like 3 foursomes ahead of you. They're taking a while. We got, 3 foursomes behind you that just obviously we can't link you up with them. So I hope you're okay just kind of going along. But it was cool because every time I was up at the tee box, a foursome of these old men that were behind me were just watching me tee off. And I hit a couple real good ones that they even gave me like the head nod. And I was just like, see, this is why I'm out here. I'm getting head nods from 70-year-old men that are just enjoying the shots.
100%, man. Like, hey, look, I'm creeping to 40 every day. Anytime someone like thinks for half a second I'm athletic, stoked. Putting that right in my back pocket, still got it. That carries me for at least 3 to 4 minutes before I hit another shot and have a complete come down.
Yeah, dude. For me with sports, it's like having my wife at one of my pickup games, like watching me sink a three. Like there's no feeling like that. And then right next to that is a 70-year-old man. Yeah, Jordan Poole in her. Wow, that actually works really well. Then right next to that is a 70-year-old man giving me a head nod off a tee shot. So, very close in the feelings that they provide me.
Shout out to all the 7-year-olds making the 30s and 40-year-olds guys feeling good, man.
Yeah, and for this round, it was really
cool. It feels like a very Dumb and Dumber moment where he's like, those senior citizens are a bit slow, and whatever his little thing is, they do still serve a purpose, which is not what we're saying, by the way.
Yeah.
Just remember that moment.
They did. Yeah. In this case, they did. But see, this round was cool because I had that going behind us, and then ahead of us, we had a foursome of these guys that were in their 40s that were just getting liquored up and getting away from their wives, you could tell, or they were divorced or whatever, and they were just ripping fireball
fun
shots.
Guys.
Yeah, they're just cool dudes.
They were just dudes being dudes, whatever their status.
And they were just vibing with us, and like they were talking to us the whole time. Then one of them like left their speaker behind, and we gave him his speaker, so he just kept feeding us shots of fireball, and he bought us like $20 worth of beer from the cart girl, and like that was a vibe too, because I was just like, dude, I didn't buy a single drink the whole round, and I was just getting head nods and free alcohol all day. It was a great time. That's why I like golf.
Dude. Look at you, prettiest girl at the bar.
Yeah, dude, I'm getting head nods from old guys and free drinks from divorced dudes. So hey, Pride Month is in full effect, I guess.
That's why guys are so great. Guys are just great like that.
Guys being dudes, man.
Guys,
that's all it is.
We have one common bond. That's all we need. Like, hey, you like to golf? I do too. And then like you're good.
Yeah,
like, you can definitely get through a day with anybody, and not anybody, but most of the time. Easily
one of the best ways to just knock out 4 or 5 hours of your afternoon, though. Absolutely. There's nothing like it. You're out there in nature. If it's a nice day, which most days in Tucson, it's pretty nice. So, the weather was great, not a lot of wind because that course gets real windy. They literally have a sign in the clubhouse that says, what is it? Like rain checks. They said no wind checks. I was like, now I know where I'm at.
Yeah. I'm telling you about that place. I'm like, any place that has to warn you about wind checks.
Yeah. But this day it was beautiful. Just me and my buddy. And, sometimes that's the best way. Because I know like when you and I go out, a lot of times it's like a foursome, or even, God, we've been out when it's like even more than that. But sometimes just you and a bud, like you and I've done that before. Like that's the best, just
it really can be. Yeah, I agree.
Good cart golf, you don't have to worry about anybody.
Yeah, way less to manage. You don't have a lot of problems to solve because inevitably, you start introducing that third, fourth guy. There's more variables. That's one guy whose phone falls out of the cart. There's one guy who left his wedge. There's one guy who's late. That guy's always the same guy, by the way. But we're
looking at you, Tyler.
But that guy, it can be a lot of fun, and you might love that guy. But yeah, sometimes it's nice just to have the one other. You keep it very simple. You only got 2 balls to chase and nothing else to worry about, and you keep it moving. But
yeah, dude, it was cool. So you and I are definitely gonna have to get out there pretty soon, especially before this kid gets here, because 9 months after that, I'm gonna be hard to get a hold of. But outside of that, man, you and I were talking before the show, kind of an anticlimactic sports week, even though there was a lot going on. I know you tagged me on Twitter because apparently the Diamondbacks are good again, and you want to talk a little bit about baseball. Is that what's going on?
I just want to say the Diamondbacks are in first place. We don't even have to talk about it. I mean, Corbin might be a stud, and the Diamondbacks are in first place.
Now, to be fair,
straight as happening.
We're only 30 games in of a 162 game season,
We
but
are
we'll
60
take our
games in.
wins when we
We are
can.
60 games in.
We're 60 games in. Oh
Yes.
my god. Baseball, man. I'm telling you, like you can't keep up with it. But hey, shout out to the D-backs. While the rest of the valley's kind of the verbal meme of like the little dog sitting in the house where it's burning on fire saying this is everything's okay. D-backs are just taking it full stride, and like you said, Corbin's looking great. The rest of the team, I guess, is gelling pretty well. My Braves did beat them tonight, though, on a grand slam. So, yes, I do pay attention to baseball a little bit when it pops up on my phone. So, yeah, shout out to the D-backs. This is probably the only time we're going to talk about baseball until about August. So, soak this up, listeners.
Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to let everybody know that my team was having a nice time.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than
Pretty
that,
simple there.
another little bite or a tapas, as some people say, because I'm going to Spain in August. Little quick shout out there, but the football season has come to an end, and when I say football, I mean the European football, soccer. That has ended. Manchester City took the Premier League. Bayern Munich took the Bundesliga. Napoli wrapped up Serie A like weeks ago, and Barcelona is taking La Liga. So there's your update on soccer. We have the under 20 World Cup going on right now. US was playing really well up until today. They lost to Uruguay. I know Henny's in full effect right now. He's just soaking all this up. And then transfer season is among us. If you're lucky, because I know at least one listener, I'm looking at you, Matt Hesse, pays attention to footy as well. Maybe I'll drop a little bit of transfer stuff the next few weeks, much to Henny's chagrin. But that's in full effect as well, and that's one of my favorite times of the year because I'm a junkie for team building. So, you got any thoughts on soccer, Henny?
I will just say that I support it. I'm a huge fan of you sort of carrying the weight of the podcast and me being able to speak completely non-deferentially about anything and everything else.
Yeah,
So I think it's a great joy for me, honestly. You can talk about transfers and I'll deflect, kind of ask where that is, make a dumb comment about a city I slightly know anything about. And honestly, it's my favorite kind of podcast to do. So by all
yeah.
means, if you want to talk about transfers, I'll just sit here and listen.
I'll put it this way: we're coming up on the dead season of sports when it's just baseball. And maybe we'll bring on a few more of our astounded guests like Matt Hesse or John Sanchez again to talk about footy. And maybe we can bring on Ben Crownover next week to talk a little bit about the NHL because the Stanley Cup is in full effect. The Vegas Knights are up 1-0 on the Florida Panthers. I know neither one of us are huge hockey guys, but I know you kind of pay attention a little bit, right, Henny?
Yeah, I mean, I actually watched some of this game. I was paying attention to it and like had it on. I just really don't know. Like I know, but I don't know. Like I just know
The
these
ins and
guys'
outs.
names, and I'm like, yeah, nope, that makes sense. He's been good, but that's
Yeah,
kind of I'm literally like if you were a hockey fan, you would hate to have me sitting next to you.
yeah,
Like
same
I am
for
not the
sure.
person you want next to you. But you're like, oh, but other than I might just agree with you. I might just
Hmm.
nod along politely. I guess maybe I am probably the best person to sit next to because I'm like, oh yeah, totally what you said for
Yeah,
sure,
I will
for
say
sure.
that hockey, great betting sport, according to Ben Crownover. I've actually hit on a few hockey bets that I had no idea what I was betting on, and I made some good money with that. So
Kind of the best way to
maybe,
go in. Just no
yeah,
expectation,
honestly,
no idea.
no second guessing because you're just going off whatever your friend tells you. So, or Mr. Ice, because I know that's who Ben uses.
Yeah.
Um, shout
You
out.
just tail some random dude from the Midwestern Canada and ride.
Yeah, that's right. Or some random Swede, because they love their hockey too. But with that, I do know a little bit about how the playoffs have been going because Ben has given me kind of the rundown. So shout out again to Ben Crownover. But the Panthers being in the Stanley Cup championship is actually pretty remarkable because I know they barely got into the playoffs because the Penguins kind of shit the bed. Got in, have just been kind of like Titan killers. They beat the Boston team that had like the best record ever, which just chef's kiss there. Anytime a Boston team loses, I'm all for it.
Good riddance.
Yeah, we soak that shit all the way in. So, and then I know they've beaten a few other Goliaths, and now they're in
The
the Stanley.
Caniacs.
Yeah, there you go.
My favorite thing to say. I just pretend to be a Caniac because it's fun to say.
Big Raising Cane's fan over here. I'm just kidding.
Like,
I know what you're talking about.
Just like when my friends bring up hockey, I'm always like, I'm just kind of like a Caniac. I just like saying it.
Exactly. But obviously their road to the Stanley Cup has been just remarkable, and now they are playing a Golden Knights team that, again, I mean, even them, they're kind of remarkable, right? Because they've only been in the NHL for, what is it now, like 4 or 5 years, something like that?
It's got to be under 5 still. It feels like season 4 or 5 to me, but I wouldn't know for sure. But yeah, it's, again, you're right. Like another team that doesn't have a tremendous amount of history, and although they did have like some early success, so maybe not shocking, but definitely surprising.
I will say what I've noticed with the NHL is it's pretty impressive how these expansion teams are doing, because like the Golden Knights got good really quickly, and then the Kraken were in the playoffs this year too, and they're only like 2 years in. So that's kind of fun. Maybe that'll make me follow, especially with the Yotes potentially leaving, but maybe not. I don't know. Hesse keeps us up to date like every single day about it, so maybe we can have him on too for that.
Oh, I still send out updates all the time because I still contest that everybody who panics about the Coyotes and tells me they're leaving, as they have been for the last 15 years, is just wrong. You're just wrong.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. Phoenix is just way too big of a market. They're not going anywhere. The NHL is not giving up so they can put a team in like, whatever, bumfuck, basically Canada again. Have like another. They're just like, no, we're not giving up this market, and it doesn't make sense. The Coyotes have been around a long time. They're staying. Everybody in the NHL can like lose their mind and pull your hair about it, and I get it. But that's like my favorite part of actually by being a Coyote supporter is that I know the entire NHL hates them, and I love that they play in like a little dump, and then we still get to keep them.
Yeah, never been relevant like ever. I can't think of a single time that the Coyotes have been relevant.
Biggest troll franchise.
Oh, absolutely. And as much as the city of Tempe just wants them gone, they have a never say die attitude that I love. So,
and I have to say, I've been to Coyotes playoff games. It can happen. So, I mean, if the Coyotes are good, I will support them. But until further notice, I'm a Caniac.
Let's go Boston. I think he's not in Boston, right? Like that's where he is.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying the
Are we talking about Patrick Kane right now?
Here we are. Here's our hockey podcast. I'm talking about the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay. I thought we were talking about Patrick Kane this entire time.
No, I get what you're doing. No, that's what I mean. Well, that's the thing. Our deep cuts for hockey are too deep for you guys, probably.
Big hockey podcast, let me tell you. Ben, if you're listening to this episode, I know you're just rolling your eyes so hard right now, and I'm so sorry.
Honestly, that's why we did this. That's why we did a hockey segment, so you could realize what we don't know about hockey.
Yeah, God, we are just this podcast. This is why you guys listen to us ramble on, apparently. So
yeah, if you heard this hockey content, you surely are betting on all of our basketball plays. You have to be just living large on your throne, hedging us, just fading us.
I hope you guys all know that we actually don't watch sports. We're actually really into art. So really big Vincent van Gogh fan. I know that Henny is a real big I can't think of another artist. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm like I haven't. Mine are all NFTs, but they're sick, dude. They're
sick. My God. Are we going to be attracting the crypto bros now? Stop.
Yeah, I'm sure they can already sniff me out that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, my God. If you asked me to explain an NFT, I think I would die. So, all right, let's move on. We'll jump into the NFL waters really quick, just for a quick update. We talked pretty at length about DeAndre Hopkins and how he would fit with XYZ team, whether it was the Chargers, the Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, right? Turns out he's not going to go to any of them. As it's actually come out that the Chiefs and Bills have already said, no, we're not going to do it, which if you listen to last week's episode, that makes a lot of sense. Because the Chiefs have no money, the Bills have no money. Ravens beat writers are saying that for some reason the Ravens don't want to sign him. Color me shocked. They see a impact receiver and they're like, nah, we're good. That's basically been my entire fandom. So I don't know why they're not interested, but apparently they're not. Haven't heard a whole lot about the Chargers, but again, that's not surprising either because your team is a little bit like mine. Hey, here's a chance to get better. Nah, we're good. Turns out the money favorite nowadays are the Cleveland Browns.
And that means he sucks?
It means that he's best friends with Deshaun Watson because they both played on the Texans. And he
Someone has
apparently doesn't.
bodies are buried.
Yeah, apparently he doesn't. Yeah, he definitely knows. Apparently he does not care about the victims of sexual assault. So, shout out to DeAndre. But he also did come out and say that he's open to any team, which, hey, man, let me tell you right now, I haven't been in the dating market in a long time, but I can tell you right now, it's best to say that you aren't that open to anybody. You got to be a little choosier than that.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting play to just all comers. But I don't know. This has been an interesting little thing. The only thing I think it's interesting about this is that there really doesn't seem to be a feeding frenzy around this by any means, which tells me there's some sort of disconnect. There must be something from a locker room standpoint that, well, I shouldn't even say that there must be. It just has that vibe, right? Of well, is it because he's just a little older and then still has an ego, or what is it that's kind of off-putting that, as we talked about, we were talking about how this can change the dynamic of a room, make it a top 5 room, and it still seems like a lukewarm market.
Yeah, one of the big things I did read was that he wants the same type of money that OBJ got from the Ravens, the 15 mil a year, which just frankly, I mean, even though he is, like we said, a top 3 receiver, I think getting cut, you're just not going to get that. You're going to have to kind of take a 1-year prove it deal, even though he has nothing to prove. It's just that is kind of what the market is for guys that get cut. So I think that's what's deterring a lot of people. Probably the Ravens look at that and they're we just paid a guy 15 mil. The Chargers and the Bills are dude, we don't have 2 pennies to rub together. And then the Chargers are just hey, our owner doesn't spend money. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But if he goes to the Browns, that'll be very, very disappointing. I did see another link to the Patriots, and that would be the most boring move of them all. So not really pulling for that.
Those are all the teams that we should have just. This is why I don't even know why we were following reporting, by the way. We should just make up our own list. Maybe we should try reporting and not prognosticating. You know what I mean? Maybe that's really the move here. It would be just show up and be all right, who are the 3 teams that make kind of no sense and aren't on anybody else's list? And I would have been well, look, you have to include the Browns because the Browns literally try to sign everything that moves.
Yep, that's true.
The Patriots, now that he's old and now that this is exactly when the Patriots would be interested in a wide receiver. As soon as he's past his peak of his powers, now they're 100% in. What are we doing here? But yeah, it's just been interesting to me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just wanted to kind of dip my toe in those waters because some stuff has changed. But outside of that, man, NBA has a lot going on. So that's kind of been the belle of the ball throughout my week. Obviously, we had game 2 tonight of the NBA Finals. Again, we're wrong on everything. I thought the Nuggets would just completely eviscerate the Heat. And turns out that overreacting over game 1s is a bad move on our part. And I guess if I was going to say this, looking at how the Heat played in game 1, and seeing Strus or Vincent or Robinson just not being able to hit a 3 to save their life and thinking that was going to be the case the whole series, that was probably a little bit of overreaction on my end. But they sure did shoot the ball tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, they're basically 48% tonight and had basically one of the statistical anomalies of a fourth quarter being impossibly efficient. So the Heat continue to just defy everything that they've been the entire season. They still continue to trot out guys who I still fail to understand. Caleb Martin was incredible a series ago, helped close out the Celtics, which I came on here and absolutely said, I don't understand how the Celtics could lose it at this point. It doesn't make any damn sense to me to do all this work, get to a game 7 at home and fall apart. But Caleb Martin more so, not even Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy, of course, was very good. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but Caleb Martin's out there absolutely. Now, tonight, he's like 3 points tonight. And then the Heat just win game 2 of a finals with other guys who I don't understand and don't know
Yeah.
anything about making. And like, granted, I've seen these guys play. Like, it's not like we've been through a whole playoffs. I've been watching them play, but it still makes no damn. Kevin Love played 20 minutes tonight, and the Heat won a game.
Yeah, he started. Like, what is life, right? Kevin Love.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
starting an
what
NBA
is
Finals
this?
game in 2023.
What the hell is going on?
Can anybody blame us for being as wrong as we have been? Because these NBA playoffs have been just ludicrous. You know what I mean? Jimmy
like if
Butler, by the way, like really quick, Jimmy Butler, you said he's been good, but like he's low-key been a little ass for like a few games now. Like he shot 7 of 19 tonight. Homie cannot hit a shot, but he's doing a lot of other things great. So I
he had
guess
like
that's
13 in game 1 or something. I mean, that's what it's not. Yeah, it's not him going bananas. It's zone defense and sharing the basketball. Like, I mean,
weird,
okay.
right?
Like, yeah, I mean, that's fun. I mean, like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I'm enjoying watching the Heat win. It's cool, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it's not what we've
No.
been watching. It's not what we've been led to believe. I mean, I'm sorry that we like look at the numbers and use our eyes. I mean, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel bad. I'm like, hey, if you think you were right about the Heat the whole time, and you're saying you've always been a Heat guy, and you knew they were going to win, dude, good for you. You and 3
Yeah.
other guys. Like that's sick.
Yeah, because nobody goes to those Miami Heat games anyway. So damn, that was mean. I won't say that again. You know
No,
who
that's
has
all
been
right. You're
really
like you're
good?
just like always holding the charger flame, and then you just like lit it on heat fire. You're always ready to bring that one. It's in your
I
DNA
am.
now. It's in your bones.
Yeah, very true. It's part of my personality. You know who has been good in this series though is Bam. Bam, this has been kind of if we would have stopped and thought about it, we were always talking about who's going to guard Jokic, but like Jokic is the one guarding Bam, and Bam is really kind of the perfect player to be his foil because he's so quick. He has really good passing himself. He has a decent shot, and he's been out there killing it. I mean, he carried the Heat game 1, even though they got beat pretty efficiently. He was like their whole offense, and then tonight shoots a pretty efficient 8 of 14 for 21. Maybe he's the key to this whole thing, right? Because he's making it tough on the defensive end for Jokic.
I will say with Bam, when he goes to the rim, it's awesome. I mean,
He can slam
a
it.
couple times a game, he just absolutely eviscerates you and attacks you at the rim in a way that just not a ton of guys do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bigs in this league, and like, yeah, some of them can turn, pivot, over their shoulder, dunk, and he does some things that are pretty athletic, and certainly things that I've been missing from the center position for me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And then like the rest of the Nuggets, obviously Jokic goes off. 41 points, 11 rebounds, only 4 assists though, and that's not really because of him. If you look at the rest of the numbers, Nuggets had a tough shooting night, man. Gordon came back down to earth, which again, not surprised there. He did the same thing against the Suns, had a massive game 1, and then farted his way into game 2. Porter only 5 points. I will continue to pound the table and say Michael Porter Jr. might be the most overrated max player in the league. And that's with DeAndre Ayton out there too. Maybe you can change my mind. I do not understand what people love about that guy's game, other than that he's a 6'10 guy that plays small forward.
Yeah, he's tall. So that's cool. No, I think I'm kind of with you. I'm not really a Michael Porter Jr. guy. He is tall. He's lengthy. He will make shots that make you believe he's a max guy because he can get off the same shots that KD gets off. Frankly, he's not as efficient, and he's not a knockdown shooter when he gets those 3-point shots. Although he's definitely a good shooter, and he does give you length on the court. I like a lot of things about what he is. I don't think he's that bad. I just think too, and this I will kind of stay with, and I really don't think there's anything moving me off this, at least to this point. I also think Jamal Murray is an okay Robin. I don't think
Yeah.
he's a plus Robin. I think he is okay. I think what we're really seeing and what we might continue to see throughout this series, I actually still think that there's still no reason for me to think the Nuggets aren't going to win, by the way. I still think
Right.
they overall have more talent, and I'm also not going to waver off of that. And if I'm wrong the whole time, so be it. But I ultimately just kind of think I do think like Denver's other stars really like it's a good team, but it's Jokic and those other guys are other guys.
Yeah, just a bunch of Jags, right? Just a guy. And the thing with Murray, and we've kind of talked about it throughout the playoffs, is he can either be like a superstar and go completely off and be like that complete Robin that you're kind of talking about. But then he has nights like tonight, or even like during the Sun series, even during the Nuggets series, where like or the Lakers series, where he just kind of fades into the background. He's not hitting the tough shots that he hits in his big games. He kind of diverts to Jokic a lot. And I mean, if you look at the score tonight, he had 18 and 10, but like frankly, that's not enough to get the job done. If you're gonna be like Nuggets fans want to paint Murray as this like superstar and one of the best shooting guards in the game, superstars don't have those kind of games, and he's had a lot of those in the playoffs. He's either gone nuclear or he's gone quiet, and that's frankly the problem I have with Jamal Murray is he's just very, very inconsistent.
Yeah, Jokic is just looking for really it's just those other guys, right? As Shaq says, the others, and it
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't matter who it is. I mean, and sometimes it might be Porter, Junior, and then sometimes it might be Jamal, but like there is some inconsistencies in it. So not shocked to see the Heat win, and I expect the Heat will give them somewhat of a series here, but it was still a statistical anomaly type of night. The Heat shot crazy.
Yep.
Denver shot poorly. Maybe it does continue. Maybe the zone really is bothering them, but but it has been interesting. The 4 assist number is interesting. There's interesting things tonight, but it's also like they shot 48% from three. And are they going to continue to make threes at that clip? I guess that's really the question because they're going to defend,
Mm-hmm.
but can they continue to shoot like this?
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, they kind of have all playoffs, and this team is built to do that because it's a bunch of guys around Bam and Jimmy that just kind of spot up and shoot. The thing that's going for them though is something that most teams in the playoffs haven't been able to do, and that's get one early in Denver. That does make this series a lot more interesting than in really any other series that we've seen with Denver. Because correct me if I'm wrong, we know the Lakers, they swept them, so obviously the Lakers never won in Denver. And then the Suns went down 0-2 in Denver, correct?
Denver hasn't lost at home since like March 30th or something.
Yeah, just notoriously hard to play there. They have a great crowd. Obviously, the elevation kills. So the fact that Miami were able to go in there and get one early, and now they're going back to Miami, this series does get a lot more clouded. Whereas before, I thought it was a very open and shut, like, okay, maybe the Heat get one game at home, but them getting one on the road in Denver, especially like I keep saying early, it makes this way, way more interesting. And I'm pretty excited to see what the Heat can do at home.
Yeah, let's just have a team win playing all zone. That will just blow my mind.
You know, can we have a discussion really quick on Spoelstra? Because is he not the best coach in the NBA, at least right now? I think Pop is probably the best coach like of all time, but like obviously he hasn't been relevant in like what, like 10 years in terms of his team play. Spoelstra has just like I was talking about it at work the other day. The things that this guy has accomplished in his career, he doesn't get talked about enough. The fact he's never won a coach of the year is insane. Because he won a championship in '05 as an assistant. Then he won what, two championships with the LeBron era Heat, and then he's been to two finals since LeBron left. Like that's damn impressive.
Yeah, I think it's him, Pop, and Kerr are probably the conversation. But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, I mean, if you're taking a guy to build your franchise, right? If you're playing the same game you play with players all the time, if you're taking a guy to build your franchise, now you're doing this from a coach standpoint. He's the youngest of that bunch. He's the most accomplished with the least.
Yep.
And he just continues to show time and time again that he's a better coach than other people out there. He just right, he's winning with less, and
Yeah.
you can someone can make the argument to me that Jimmy Butler's a goat, or he's so good, he's one of those guys, and that's like all well and good, but the numbers are what the numbers are, and Jimmy Butler is not a top 5 guy. And if he gets
No.
it and he steals that crown for 1 year, if he wins it this year, like I'll absolutely give it to him. That guy's not going to have that crown for years to come. That's not going to
No.
be a 10-year stretch. It's not a LeBron stretch. It's not a Steph stretch. It's not a KD stretch, right? He's not in the conversation with those guys. Can he jump a bunch of other guys? Sure. I love Jimmy. It's fun as hell, but what Spo's doing is awesome.
Yeah, Jimmy's the top 5 hustle guy, like probably the best hustle guy in the league. But like exactly what you're saying, in terms of just pure superstardom, like there is no like definable quality outside of hustle that guy is like a top 5 person at, right? Not a great shooter, like not supremely athletic, doesn't just yam on people, very good defender, but even then there's probably a few other guys you can think of that are better than him. It's just his motor is like the best in the NBA, and he just has a never say die attitude. So the fact that Spo has gone to 2 NBA finals since Jimmy has been there, and the guys around him have just been like Bam, who is very good. Bam's probably a top 10 center in the league. And then just a bunch of undrafted guys. Like, dude, I think we really got to start talking about Spo just being like rock solid, the best coach in the league right now. Right. I think, like you said, in
Yeah,
terms of
no argument from
legacy,
me.
obviously Kerr and Pop are gonna usurp him, but they both had much better teams with just pure star power. And if you give Spo those Warriors teams, if you give Spo some of those Spurs teams, like he probably, I mean, this might sound really, really reactionary. He might win more than what they did. I don't know. Maybe not Pop, but I could see it with Kerr.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting argument, right? Because there's just different things that happen too. Although he has like clearly proven that he can win with superstars, manage those expectations, those personalities, and now he's done it with somewhat of a lesser. But I mean, it's not. That's the thing. I think Jimmy has every bit the personality of those guys. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy ain't having the conversation we're having. I promise you
No,
that about
Jimmy
the
thinks
way
he's the
we're
best
talking
player in the
about.
world.
Yeah, so like, which is what makes him great, right? And I don't ever want him to change, and that's what we love about him. But Spo's doing a lot with less.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible how he's winning games. And obviously, still a ton of credit goes to the players, but guys winning, and I can't imagine picking anybody else. If you could pick any coach in the league right now, you'd pick Spo, and I don't even think it's close.
Yep, completely agree. Well, since we're on the topic of coaches, a few coaching hires happened recently. We'll start with the former Suns manager, Monty Williams. My man caught a bag from Detroit, right? Like, what was the contract going to be in like 6 years?
6 or 78, 72 to 78 felt like the number kept floating around in that
And
range.
and then with like bonuses or stuff that like achievable bonuses, it can reach 100 million. Like, oh my God,
All
has
he has
there
to do
ever
is win
been
5 championships in Detroit.
has there ever been a better scenario of somebody getting fired and just absolutely getting a bag because of it? Like, dude, round of applause for
Tom
Monty
Brady to
Williams.
Kim K.
If those rumors are true, I mean, hey,
Just kidding.
congrats, Tom.
I don't think that's an
Terrible
improvement, but
joke.
it's something that happened. Maybe I don't know.
That's what the rumors are saying. But no, dude, like I honestly really good hire for Detroit. If you look at where the Suns were when they hired Monty Williams, kind of in a similar spot, right? They had kind of an up and coming star with Booker, drafted a high, like a number 1 draft pick with Aiton. If you look at Detroit, Cade Cunningham, former number 1 pick. They have Jaden Ivey. They have Marvin Bagley, which, hey, I'm sure that, Monty's going to just love Bagley, but just a young team that has potential, and that's where Monty kind of thrives. So honestly, I think it's a great, great hire. If you look at if it's an overpay or not, like, you know what? There's no salary cap when it comes to coaching hires. It ain't my money, so I don't give a shit. Like, go get your bag, Monty. And you know what? Good on Detroit for going out and convincing him to do it.
Yeah, I'm happy for Monty, and I think when we talked about it, right? I mean, that was kind of the thing. Is that I think one of the themes was, hey, we like what he did here, and he's a good guy. No one like wants to see him get fired, but it's a business, and he's a good coach, and he'll get hired again. And looks like it worked out really well for him. Frankly, I can't. I mean, I'm sure he would love to still be in Phoenix, competing for a championship. But he might have also killed DeAndre Ayton. So, like, I mean, he might have needed this. I don't know. Like, so maybe this is
Uh,
just a good thing for all parties. I'm glad Monty landed on his feet. I think it is pretty crazy that he's the highest paid coach in the league.
yeah, we just
Um,
talked about Spo. Like, you know what I
yeah, we just
mean?
mentioned like three guys that it just seems like would be more deserving because of the championships. But I think it's going to be a good fit. I think he'll win plenty of games there. I will be interested, like just following along from this simple standpoint of, what is he like without having Chris Paul as a culture setter
Or
to
Devin
help
Booker.
drive that, and certainly obviously having Devin Booker. But I think when you had like the powers of all those things meeting at once, like that's when it became really special. So I am curious to see, and it might not all just be as simple as Monty, because as you mentioned, there's young talent there that has to develop, mature, and all of those things. But
Mhm.
I'll be watching curiously, and good for him.
This is definitely like the situations that he looks for, though. You can tell just from his coaching career. Like, he wants to go to those situations where maybe they haven't been very good, and then he helps turn them around, right? He was in Philly when Philly was kind of just starting out, kind of overcoming the process. He was with those good OKC teams. And then, like, comes to Phoenix and, takes on a team that has all the talent to do it and just needs some guidance. And maybe that's where Detroit is, because they do have a hell of a lot of talent. It sucks that they didn't get a top 5 pick. That's another conversation for another day. The fact that you can have like the worst record in the league or close to it and not get a top 5 pick, like, that's absolutely insane to me, but whatever. But he's going to have a lot of talent on that team. And, I think your point is the best point. Like, let's see what this dude is really made out of. Did he catch lightning in a bottle with a bad situation in Phoenix, or is this dude really a good coach? I think what it comes down to, though, is I think it was good for both parties, right? Like, Phoenix had kind of reached their ceiling underneath him, and they needed a change in voice. They needed a change in strategy, and I think he needed a new project. Like, he couldn't keep taking that Phoenix team to the playoffs and doing what he was doing. He needed kind of a fresh rebrand, and he's going to get that in Detroit. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
And if you're a Detroit fan and you're wondering why you didn't get the top 5 pick, I'm marrying a Detroiter, so I'm taking them as a secondary team, and so you guys are all you're screwed. Yeah, like you're never gonna get a top pick again. You're gonna get hosed by the referees. The Lions don't need my help, frankly. They're fine. I'm not taking any blame there. But the Red Wings down, Tigers are playing a little decent baseball, kind of like the Diamondbacks. But
They had a
but
tough weekend.
I'm just telling you, Detroit fans, you thought it was bad. It's about to get worse. I'm getting married into
Yeah.
the family. You know what I mean? It's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, you're going to bring that Valley energy to Detroit
Yeah, you
through
already got
proxy.
our coach. Like immediately, they're like, you know who we need? Yeah. So good luck out there.
The one thing I do want to know about Detroit, and maybe you can help answer this eventually. I don't know if you know tonight, but now that you are, joining the Detroit family, when this was one of my favorite things that they did back, like, in our day, like, remember when the Pistons won in like '04 or whatever it was, and they had the announcer every time they would like come out to play, they would go Detroit basketball. That used to be like one of my favorite things ever. I wonder if they still do that, or if that was merely just a mid 2000s thing.
No, I think they definitely still do that. Jalen Rose still says that stuff all the time. He's still a Detroit guy, and that's like
Yeah,
definitely a part of their. Yeah, I think that stays. I just think probably no one's watched a Pistons game in 5 years, so it's not really. I don't think it's really on you or on them. This is just sort of one of those things where like if we're talking about the Kings light the beam 5 years from now, I'll be stoked, but I doubt it.
I will say this: if the Pistons want me to watch their games, they just need to bring back those teal uniforms that they had with like the super sick logo on them from the
I hated
'90s.
those.
Oh, what the hell is
They're
wrong with
cool.
you,
No,
dude?
so like I look at them now, and I have like a weird nostalgia for them. But if I'm being
Yeah.
honest with myself, when they first came out with those, I did not think those were it. I did not think those were cooler than the. I think when you like win a championship, and I don't know, that's a weird move to win a championship, have like a actual team that matters culturally in the '80s, and then just come out in teal with a giant horse on your jersey. It's a weird move.
Is that whole thing about horsepower too? Because they're like the automotive capital of the world.
I would have to assume that's the only connection I can. It's definitely a jump to conclusions map game for sure, but I think so.
Detroit's had some pretty cool like uniform history though, because even the ones in the '80s, those were nice. I think the ones that they wore like during our era, like '04, those were pretty dope. I mean, tough to lose with red and blue. I mean, very neutral colors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Pistons uniforms are solid, and I do like the throwbacks now. But I just admittedly would say that when they first did it, I was like, this is not. Now they just make me laugh, and I kind of like them. All those '90s uniforms that even maybe felt cheesy to me at the time. Now I'm super into just nostalgia.
I just think about the Grant Hill era and the NBA Jam era, and that's probably why I like them so much. So,
Oh,
uh,
100%. No, I totally
yeah.
get why you. Yeah, I totally get it too.
So we already mentioned, right, that the Suns kind of needed a rebrand. They went out and did that. They hired Frank Vogel, previously of the championship Lakers, the bubble squad. Um, Very much a defensive-minded coach. Something I think that the Suns kind of needed because their defense was pretty like I don't know where it ranked, but like when I watched them in the playoffs, kind of middle of the road, they didn't do a lot of great things. And they hired a guy that he's had pretty good luck coaching big men. You're the one that texted me. I know he's coached at like 80. He coached Roy Hibbert to 2 All-Star selections. So like
Sure
good
did.
on you, Frank Vogel. Like holy hell. If he can even do that with DeAndre Ayton, if they keep him, that'll be fantastic. But then they also were able to keep Kevin Young, who interviewed for the head coaching job, as his lead assistant. And Kevin Young is a huge offensive minded guy. So they're getting kind of the best of both worlds, a very much a hugely just really smart defensive guy head coach, and then one of the best young minds on offense as his lead assistant. Do you think this was a good hire, Henny?
Yeah, I think once. So I liked it when it was just announced that it was Frank Vogel. I'm happy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not bothered by this. This is good. This is a serious person who
Has
players
a
have to take
resume.
seriously. He has a
Yeah.
resume. He's won. He's noted as being able to make adjustments. All the kind of things we were sort of talking points around maybe we were lacking in.
Yep.
And then he's able to keep, for lack of a better term, like his offensive coordinator, the guy that was kind of helping to drive the offense anyways.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe taking some of the reins off of him because of what it might change with Monty. And perhaps there's a move around Chris Paul where it just kind of changes the dynamic of, ultimately who's steering the car, if you will, when we're on the court. So
Yeah.
this still I will not change on. Like this still comes down to roster construction to me and what ultimately they're able
Absolutely.
to do here. I think, as we just talked about, I mean, honestly, I think the three coaches we just mentioned are the only three guys who, for sure, I'm banging at the table saying, like, yes, we did it. And everything else is kind of like, I hope this is the right rest. Like, hopefully, this is the chef that gets the right ingredients and it
Hmm.
just gels and this works and all of that. So I'm happy with I feel like they took their time. They ended up with a good adult type of hire. Like, nothing weird happened. And so I think this is all good vibes.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I didn't even really give a whole lot of thought to Frank Vogel. I know I said like I wasn't excited about him when we were talking about the potential hire of him, but it's probably because I was too like I was too distracted by the idea of potentially having Doc Rivers and having to just end it all. Which hey, we're all safe on this side of the microphone now. We didn't have to go down that route, so that's good. And apparently, he was never in serious consideration. The Sun said Frank Vogel was the number one guy, which I'm gonna have to believe him on that because I want to believe them on that. But they went ahead and hired a guy that, like you said, great resume. I'm more intrigued with the thought that they were able to keep Kevin Young Number one, because when Monty got hired, it was a real fear that he was going to snatch up Kevin Young. Or two, hey, the guy could have got hired, really anywhere else. And this is a guy that Devin Booker vouched for, so you don't want to piss off like your best young player. And then also there was a fun story that came out that Matt Ishbia asked Chris Paul one time. He saw Chris Paul was talking only to Kevin Young during a timeout, and he asked him, "Hey, why are you talking to him and not Monty?" And he said, "Because this guy is one of the smartest X and O player or X and O coaches I've ever been around." And when you're talking about a guy like Chris Paul that's had a lot of coaches and is also one of the smartest X and O guys, for him to say that, that makes me really excited. The fact that we were able to get somebody with such a good resume that's going to command a room and lead defensively, but also keep the young up and coming assistant that can really coach an offense. My question being, though, is how different is our offense going to look keeping somebody that was on the staff from last year? I want to see what ideas this guy had that Monty didn't let get through the door, and maybe our offense will evolve a little bit more. Obviously, depending on roster construction. So those are kind of my thoughts on the hire.
Yeah, and to be fair to really everybody involved, the offense is just going to evolve anyway because there really wasn't a ton of time to get Kevin Durant in house. I mean, we're still talking about a
Great
sample
point.
size of basically what used to be an NBA preseason that doesn't exist anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
you used to not have 20 games together, 30 games together. You'd be like, well, these guys are never going to have even a chance. And
Yeah.
again, up until this point, they've been the best, maybe the second best team in the. There's an argument, anyways, that they've been as competitive as anybody in the West without even having time. So
Yeah.
a ton of questions, but I mean, I'm with you, right? If they kept a brilliant young offensive mind, at least according to Chris Paul and others, and there has been a lot of good accounts on like what Kevin Young's done, and it's great that we're talking about elite assistant, right?
Yeah.
Like we have a coach that won an NBA championship, and we're excited about the assistant coaches around it. So
Yeah.
just carry that enthusiasm, and I hope they do the same, bring the same kind of excitement for the roster because ultimately we all know this is a players league. It is. I mean, it's definitely a players league, and I still think that drives most of it. But your coach does matter.
Yeah. I think the thing that you said that intrigued me the most is the fact that we don't have an NBA preseason anymore. I forgot all about that. And to be honest with you, it instantly brought up PTSD of the Suns losing to the New Zealand Breakers in the preseason,
Well,
like
I
the
mean,
year
like,
before they hired
yeah,
Monty.
but that's what I
So,
mean. Like, we do have a preseason, but nothing happens. Like, what happens? You lose to the New Zealand Breakers, and then you win like the first 25 to 26 games in an NBA season or something. So I just
dude,
don't like what is the NBA preseason? The regular season doesn't even make sense anymore.
that was the year though that we lost New Zealand Breakers. That was it. I think it was the year before Aiton. And that's when we were rolling out Dragon Bender, Elia
That was this
Kobo.
year. That was this year. You're living in COVID time.
Oh
That
my
happened
God, are
this.
we
That
really?
was this preseason.
No. Who
That's
am I
good. Yes,
thinking of
because
then?
everybody was panicked because we lost to a team from New Zealand because we had lost Game 6, and the internet immediately connected those two dots as if those are real things, and said the Suns are forever dead as a franchise. And then because we live in dog years as Suns fans, we internalized all of that hatred towards us.
So
Actually, yeah,
I'm gonna let you get that off, but I'm thinking of a different preseason game then because I remember distinctly this was when we had a really shit roster and we lost by like 30 to a team like the New Zealand Breakers then. And I remember thinking then, like, I should not watch another Suns game until something good happens.
well, there were plenty of years where I had to take mental health checkouts on the Suns. And that's only because I've been doing this a lot longer. I just think like at
Yeah.
some point in your life, you deserve mental breaks from what your team is doing to you. If you're going to do this for a lifetime, if you're going to be in this forever, right? Like this is like an old married couple giving you sage advice. If you're going to be with a team for a long time, it's okay to take a healthy break once in a while. And
Dude,
if you did that, good for you.
all these bad Suns memories are starting to meld together into just like singular events. You know what I mean?
Well, if we keep talking, we're going to
Uh,
start sharing a brain too. So I'm not sure that I helped anything tonight, but
yeah.
yeah, because
No, you didn't. You made me think of Dragon Bender and Elia Kobo. So
that's
thanks,
all.
dude.
As soon as you say bad sons, I immediately go to Bender and Bledsoe.
Or what was his name? The dude from Washington that we drafted like fourth overall. That all he could do was dunk. Marquise Chris.
Marquise Chris, yeah.
Oh God, kill me now.
That's
Okay,
like a
you know
name that
what?
just shows up too. Like that's like a
Yeah,
like he just shows up and because he's a top 5 pick. Those top 5 picks are brutal.
Marquise Chris. Chris with two S's. That's when we should have known it was gonna be a bad pick. Oh man, you know what? I feel a lot better about our offseason because those guys aren't on the team. So I think we're gonna be okay, Henny. You
It's
know
gonna be
what? I
fine.
think we're
This is gonna be
yeah.
fine. Hey, big
We'll,
trade
we'll,
mid-season. They put an adult in the head coach position. I think, granted, they had one before, so but they've made a normal decision. Like just they've been doing normal things. I feel like this has been very normal. It's very
yeah.
scary when you have a new owner. Ishbia could have done something very weird here, and he did something that is sensible, and I think it's good for my heart.
I will say this: I am excited for the next few steps because with them hiring Kevin Young, they did make him the highest paid assistant in the league. So Ishbia is already showing that he's not afraid to spend money. So Damian Lillard, come on down. I think Ishbia is ready to pay you.
Yeah, let's just like as we mentioned, let's just start reporting news. Damian Lillard was just traded to the Suns.
And that's why people listen to this
I
podcast.
was like,
Well,
he's in a 3-piece move for the rants to the trade rights of Ja Morant. Should he ever play again?
oh yeah, you want to talk about that really quick? Actually, the fact that Silver won't disclose. Okay, he came out and said that they found out a lot more information that hasn't come out yet, and they don't want to detract from the finals. How screwed is John Morant? You think?
I don't know. This thing is like so weird and so sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. But I mean, it's his own doing, so it's
It
like,
also feels hilarious almost. Like that's why I'm having a hard time feeling sad, but I'm sad that a young man like is possibly or potentially making bad decisions.
mm-hmm.
They mostly seem like just super immature, dumb decisions that are like that should just be funny and like not necessarily dangerous. But I'm worried that as like more we unravel, the more we're not gonna like what we hear. I don't know.
Yeah,
It has that vibe, right? And then you're gonna be
yeah.
like,
His
"That's not fun anymore."
Yeah, his comments that they found out a lot more details that have not come out. I'm like, well, what did we find out? Like, this guy operated in a trap house. Like,
Because he
this dude
did beat
kill
up a kid at a
somebody.
basketball court once, and that already seems pretty red flaggish for him to be beating up a 16-year-old kid, considering
Yeah.
he plays in the NBA. Not the
Oh
best
man.
look, but
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Is it bad that I can't wait for the finals to be over so I can find out what this guy did? Man.
yeah, it's bad. But I mean,
Yeah,
not
it
in a.
is.
I mean, you're fine. The typical human condition stuff, but
I just want to know how screwed this guy is because, like, they said, I think it came out today or yesterday that they said that at bare minimum he's going to be suspended half the year. So I'm like, okay, well, at bare minimum, that's probably not going to be what happens. It's probably going to be worse than that, especially because they're probably going to want to make like an example out of him. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. Grizzlies. I hope you had fun last season because it's not going to be the same thing next season. Not without John Morant.
no, that will not be the
So
same.
cool, man. Well, I think that's pretty much all I got. We will be following the rest of the NBA Finals. I will talk to Diamond Hands Crown over and try to get him on the pod to maybe finish up the Stanley Cup. If it should still be going on, right? I mean, probably bare minimum like game 3 or something like
It could
that.
be a game 6, 7 type preview, or it could be, hey, wrap up the NHL season. Tell us what happened, Ben.
Yeah, so we'll probably try to have Ben on here. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll try to have some of our friends on the rest of the summer. Outside of that, we will keep you guys up to date on anything that changes, including the John Morant situation. Henny, you got any closing words?
RIP Arizona baseball. It was a nice run. Good job in the Pac-12 tournament. Way to make it. Unfortunately, didn't work out. And then for those listeners, eventually we will get back to talking some Arizona college basketball. But I think we definitely owe the people. They've completely revamped the roster.
Oh
We owe
yeah,
them a
we
few
forgot
minutes
about
at
that.
some time.
Yeah, Caleb Love. So we'll talk about that
Yeah,
next
save
week
it. We could
because
talk. The roster's still getting tweaked. We could have a transfer any second, honestly. So
I,
stay
I
tuned, but
do
I'm
know
sure we'll
we're
talk through
getting
it.
We're getting 2 new Lithuanians, so you have so much to look forward to, Henny. I know you love your Lithuanians.
Yes.
All right, we will talk about that on next week's pod. Outside of that, guys, please follow us on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Leave a review if you would so kindly do that. It helps us out a lot. Share the podcast, share it with a friend, share it with a family member. Grab somebody's phone, subscribe to the podcast without them even knowing. I condone that. I did it with my dad. So, also, please go ahead and, just make sure you guys keep listening. So, we've been growing a lot and it's been exciting, but we will not grow anymore without you guys. And we really, really appreciate everything you guys do for us. So, we don't just jump on here and throw out shitty takes for nothing. It's because we see you guys are listening. Other than that, I don't got anything. Any other last words?
No, just thanks for all the support we've been getting. And again, I mean, for you to follow us, even though we're not a golf podcast, has been really a great
Well, we
feeling.
kind of are, but
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty clear that we're definitely not a golf podcast. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We didn't lead
Wink,
for 15
wink.
minutes just talking about our own golf games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we will talk to you next week. Be safe. Bye-bye.